Today we're going to talk about ratio, proportion, percent. This is especially a big one for 7th grade in your standards, so make sure you're paying attention. And 8th graders, this should be a review for you. Ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division, so we usually think of it as just 7 over 6. You can also write with a colon in between, 7 and then the word TO, 6 is how you read the ratio. Ratios can be simplified just like fractions can. So I wouldn't want to leave a ratio of 4 to 2. I would want to divide them both by 2 and get a ratio of 2 to 1. And it is important whichever one comes first. If I say the ratio of girls to boys, then the first number would represent girls and the second number would represent boys. A proportion is two ratios that are equal, and we have a little check for that, and that is if the cross products are equal, then it is a true proportion. And what we can do, you can solve a lot of problems using proportions. So we're going to learn how to solve proportions here. And I'll let you use the calculator to do the arithmetic part of it, but you still need to show me steps. So cross products means things that are diagonally across from each other. So I'm going to take the 16 and the n, I'm going to multiply them. That's going to be equal, if this is a true proportion, which it does say equal to whatever 24 times 15 is, and that's where I'm saying you can use your calculator. So you get 360. So this is the equation. What would we need to do? Divide by 16. I don't care if you show that step. If you want to put the step in, divide by 16, you can. Or if you just want to go n equals, just make sure, again, you can use your calculator to do this. You get 22.5. So that's solving a cross product. Here, when you're taking what's diagonal, it's going to be 6 times the quantity, x minus 3. I would not advise trying to do that in your head, because many of you will leave out a step. And then 7 times 14, if you want to use your calculator for that, I guess you can. Now, I wouldn't use the calculator on this part, because you know we're distributing 6x minus 18 equal 98. So now we need to show our steps in solving this equation, because it's not just divide like it was in that last one. Excuse me. So we're going to add 18 to each side. 6x equal 116, and then divide by 6. And if you want to use your calculator to do that division, you can. You'll get 19 and 1/3 if you don't use a calculator. If you get a calculator, you're going to get 19.3 repeating. Or if you reduce it, it would be 58/3 is another way to look at it. So we're going to set up a proportion and solve this. So Trent goes on a 30-mile bike ride every Saturday. He rides the distance in 4 hours. Well, that's a ratio, so I'm going to set that ratio up. 30 miles, and I do want you to label your thing when you set it up in 4 hours. Does 30 miles have to go on top? No, it doesn't really matter. You can put the 4 hours on top. But whichever one you put on top to start with is important, because now it's going to matter. He rides it at this rate. How far can he ride in 6 hours? And this is why I have you label them, because you have your hours on the bottom. So we're going to put the 6 down here. And this side, I don't really care if you label. And the x here. So we're going to use our cross products. So 4x equal 180. Divide by 4 and you get x equal 45. Now I do expect a label, so you can look right over here across from what it was to see that it is miles. Remember, m is not an abbreviation for miles. mi would probably work for that. Now we're going to do proportions. You can set up proportions with, or set up a percent problem with proportions, or you can use an equation method. If you have trouble, I think this way is a little easier, but you do have to remember some rules. So the percent always goes over 100. That's kind of step 1 and 2. Find your percent, put it over 100. What I call step 3 is whatever follows the word of. It will always go on the bottom because it's the total. So another thing to think about the bottom is it's the total of whatever we're talking about. And then whatever you have left goes on top. All right, so if you can remember 3 things, percent over 100, what follows up goes on the bottom. Then anything left would have to go on top. Use your cross products. Another way to do it is use an equation, rate times base equal part. So rate is your percent, but you do need to change it to a decimal. The base is the total, and the part is what's left. So this would kind of be rate, and in this case it would go over 100. This would represent the base, and this would be the part. So if you're going to kind of make them equivalent, you can do that. So I will show both the ways, I guess, of doing this. 65% of what is 162.5. So step 1 in the proportion method is find your percent, put it over 100. 65 over 100, so that's pretty easy. Then we want to find the word of, in this case, what? We don't know, so the x is going to go here, and the 162.5 will go here. Using your cross product, 65x equals, hopefully you know the easy way to multiply by 100. You would not need to use a calculator, and that's going to be move your decimal over 2 places to the right, so it's going to be 16250. Again, you can use your calculator and divide, and you're going to get 250. Now, if we wanted to use the equation, rate times base equal part, your rate is 65%, so if you write that as a decimal, it's 0.65. Your base is, we don't know, x equals 162.5. So then here you're going to be dividing by 0.65, and you would end up getting the same answer. Number 5, if you find your percent, it says what percent? We don't know, so x is going to go over 100. What follows the word of? 32. What's going on top? 48. Cross products, 32x equal 4,800. Divide, and since I'm running out of room, I guess I'll write my answer over here. I don't like to do this, but need to divide, and I don't have an answer on my paper, so I'm going to have to get my calculator and divide. And you could probably do this a different way and make it easier, but so 480 divided by 32 is 15. So 15% would be, what would we get there? If we wanted to use the rate times base equal part, we don't know our rate. We know the base, so it would be 32r equals, the part is 48, so we divide by 32, and you're going to get r equals, something wrong there, 480 divided by 32 equals, that's correct. Oh, I didn't put it in, so when I divide 48 divided by 32, having a little issue here, 32r equals 48. Oh, I left a 0. That's my problem there. So this should be 150%. I knew it had to be greater than 100%, so I wasn't watching what I was doing there. And on this, you're going to get 1.5, but it's in decimal form, so then you'd have to move your decimal 2 over to get 150%. And I almost was going to ask that question beforehand, that we know our percent's got to be bigger than 100 because 48 is bigger than 32. So it should be 150% there. So I knew there was a problem. And so that helps, because I said, did my answer make sense? And I knew it didn't. So then I could go back and find my mistake on that. So that's what you want to do, is ask yourself some of these questions, and you can hopefully find mistakes before you